The logs here at Petrified Forest National Park. The trees that created these logs fell, became log jams, got buried, started their process of becoming petrified wood before T-Rex showed up. So think about how many millions of years ago T-Rex was running around here. When the Tyrannosaurus Rex showed up, these trees were already down and starting to become petrified wood. I always say like geology and rock formations, that kind of stuff. There's so many hundreds of millions and billions of years. It's hard to put that into your head and make any sense of it. The fact that we've got trees that had grown hundreds of feet tall, fallen, and started their own process of becoming fossils before one of our most famous fossils even lived, I don't even know how to process that. I'm heading out on a hike at Petrified Forest National Park. This is actually my second day in the park. The first day I came through and drove the entire length of the park. It's about 28 miles. I came in the south end, which is the Rainbow Museum Visitor Center historic section. And then you can drive all the way up to the north end to the actual large visitor center and headquarters. And also you end up at the Painted Desert. One of the great things about this park is that you can drive through here and park and check out all the overlooks and all the different stops along that 28-mile route with an RV, even a big RV. I'm towing a 30-foot Airstream with an 18-foot van, give or take. I'm about 50 feet long total. And there were only 2 parking lots that I couldn't get into. And that is because they're restricted. They're literally parking lots. Everything else is a drive-through, either with a long sloping curving drive or a large enough lot that they have RV parking spaces. And as long as no cars are parked in the RV parking spaces, which I did see yesterday and is super annoying, you should be fine. One of the rangers I talked to here said it's one of the few national parks that you can do that with a big rig. And he actually has a picture of a guy with a massive Class A, I want to say at least a 40-foot Class A, towing 2 Jeeps, not 1, 2. And he explored the entire park with no problem. So he uses that as his guide. If you're not as big as that, you'll have no issues whatsoever. I will note 2 things you need to know about this park. One is, when you are driving through, that main road through the park appears to be in good shape. It's not got a lot of potholes, not broken up, that kind of thing. But there are undulations, I guess you would call them. There are a lot of dips. And especially if you're hauling a trailer, you're gonna feel that a lot. So slow down, go below the posted speed limit. Speed limits range anywhere from 15 to 45 in this park. And people behind you are just gonna have to be patient. And even I saw some Class C's coming through yesterday. And as they picked up speed, they were really bouncing. So I don't know what we can do to all send in letters or emails or something, but we need to get some funding to this park so I can fix that road, because it's a great park to drive through with an RV in terms of access. Terrible park to drive through in terms of road condition. Second thing I will mention is, like everywhere else in the Southwest, we are in Arizona, it's gonna be hot in the summer, in the afternoon. You wanna get out and get your hikes done early. The problem is, the gates don't open till 8 a.m. And I'm not talking the booth where you check in and show your pass. There's literally gates across the road that do not open until 8 a.m. And they close, I want to say, early evening. Now, you can be in the park after the gates close. And just as you get up to the gate, you wait and it will open for your vehicle. So you can't get trapped in here. But the bummer about an 8 a.m. gate opening, it's not like you can be out on the trail at 6 or 7 a.m. like you'd like to be in this kind of a hot conditions situation. And sunrise this morning was at 5:06 a.m. I know, I was up, I got a picture. And I'm like, well, I have 3 hours before I can even think about starting my hike. I probably say this about a lot of national parks, but the landscape here is kind of crazy. And I mean, if it wasn't unique or special, I guess it wouldn't be a national park or a national monument, but there's just so much wide open space here. And then the petrified logs. are everywhere. Some small, some big, some giant. It's a really neat thing to see. One of the nice things about being able to drive through this park so much, especially in an RV, is you can see, I think the ranger said you can see like 90% of what there is to see here by driving to it, getting out at the overlooks, getting out and taking some of the short trails. And there's usually quarter mile, half mile, maybe a 1 mile loop at one point. They're pretty easy trails. Some of them are paved. None of them have a lot of elevation change. And you can get up close and personal to a lot of the logs. And of course, don't screw with them. Don't try to take anything. It's all protected. And rightly so. The age of these logs is mind-boggling. As you look out across the landscape, certainly the camera's picking up the larger chunks of trees and the big fallen logs. There's also so many little pieces just everywhere. It's clearly what makes this a special place. Here's an example where I'm talking about with these big trees. This thing was massive. Try not to trip over smaller pieces. I mean, this is just huge. So interesting and so beautiful all at the same time. After I did the little trail behind the visitor center yesterday, I ended up chatting with a ranger. And I told him, I said it was really neat and that it was kind of mind-boggling to think about. And it was cool to see all the big logs. And he said, he ain't seen nothing yet. So I asked him about hiking, and he said that this Long Logs Trail and then out to Agate House is one of his favorites because you can see such a huge quantity and such a variety of sizes. And boy, was he right. Every time you take a curve on this trail or you come over a little bit of a rise, you just see more and more and more. And when you see the size of the logs that are here and what was clearly more of a base of a tree, you get a sense of how big these trees really were. Whenever you're visiting national parks, the question always comes up, how much time do I need? Well, I got here about noon yesterday and then stopped at Visitor Center and then drove north through the park. I stopped at just about every overlook, and it took me most of the day. I think I was at my campsite back on the south end at about 6 o'clock at night, 6:30 maybe. And then today I'm doing the hike because you want to hike in the morning. So it really depends on your time available, I suppose. If you wanted to come into the park first thing when they open, knock out a hike, and then go do the driving tour, yeah, you could do this park in one day. It'd be a busy day, but you could do it. If you have the luxury of doing an overnight, then break it up and it won't be so tiring. Speaking of camping, there is some camping in the area. There's no camping in the park. I ended up staying overnight at the Crystal Forest Gift Shop and Museum. It's a member of Harvest Host, but they also just let you camp there in the parking lot for free. It's first come, first serve, and it's boondocking in their parking lot. There's room for maybe half a dozen rigs or so. And then they also own a store across the road where I think it's $25 a night, at least in June of 2024, it's $25 a night and you have electric hookups. I'm on the Agate House Trail now. Looks very much like the Long Logs Trail because they're essentially the same trail. So one branches off of the other. If you wanted to come out just to this house, there's a way to do it directly without having to do the big loop. But the big loop was worth it. If you live in a place where the only building blocks you have for a house are petrified wood, that's what you use. And they think that there was a structure here, a large structure, used by probably a family, or could have been a gathering place for several families, sometime between 1050 and 1300, so a long time ago. When this foundation was found in the 1930s, archaeologists thought it was a unique situation. And since then, apparently, they have found other foundations and other dwelling-type structures made out of petrified wood throughout the park. So it's not unique. The Civilian Conservation Corps actually came in and reconstructed part of this building. Reconstructing foundations in old buildings is not something archaeologists do anymore because it's considered better to just let things lie the way they are and remain in the context and not get messed with. And they said there's actually a situation here where as they reconstructed it, they thought they knew enough but didn't. And it turns out there probably would not have been a window in the wall. As the CCC rebuilt it, they put a window in. But access would have been from above through ladders. So that part is accurate. But it's interesting, since they did it, it's interesting to see what it might have looked like to have a building made out of petrified wood. It's quite fascinating. Petrified Forest National Park is unique because of the quantity of petrified wood that is here. But it's also unique in that it's RV friendly, it's dog friendly. It's a great place to come spend half a day, spend a couple of days. There's a lot of things to see and do here in terms of the geology, the petrified wood. There's some beautiful sunrises and sunsets because of the horizons here. Get to Petrified Forest National Park, check it out if you can. In the meantime, keep on trekking, and we'll see you out there. I'm almost back to the Airstream. For the record, my total hike this morning was about 2.6 miles. That's from the visitor center across the parking lot, Long Logs Trail, Agate House Connector, back down to the Airstream, which is parked on this end of the parking lot. So, that's how far I walked.